Soulish Podcast, where we talk all about the ish of our souls. My name is Whitney Apke, and I am your host. I am so excited for you to meet our very special guest, Amber Romaniuk. Amber is an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert who helps professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. Her amazing podcast, the No Sugarcoating Podcast, has over 500,000 downloads, over 200 episodes, and is listened to in over 82 countries. She's an amazing woman, and I had so much fun connecting with her to discuss how our body is affected by and also influences our thoughts and emotions, as well as how stuck energy or an unhealed past can negatively impact our health and wellness. We get into it, and I hope that you enjoy every minute of our very open, honest, and vulnerable conversation about the body and soul connection. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, for making the time. I really appreciate it. I wanted to discuss the connection really because you're a body expert. I would love to discuss the connection between the body and the soul. And I think first, there's three main parts of our soul. We're super, obviously, intricate people, but mind, emotions, and will. And I thought that would be cool to see how that connects and relates between our body and our soul, just how our mind influences our body, our emotions influence our body, and then the choices we make, obviously, with either eating or self-care practices that we implement or don't implement into our daily life, and how that affects our body. One of your main stories that you talk about in your bio and also in your podcast is your mom. And it's so heavy and heartbreaking, and then also incredible what you take out of that story and the empowerment that you have given yourself as well as other people. And so I just wanted to ask you with that, what was it in you, talking about like thought life, what was it in you that made that decision to not become like that, not think like your mother?
That's such a great question. I think the first motivator was fear of being like her, and I didn't want to end up like her and get sick and like have all the struggle that she had. So I think that was the first motivator before it was like intuitive or more, soul-based. And then, as I was going through my journey of food addiction, I really started to realize, and not to blame, but like part of this aspect of this addiction was inheritance from her mother, my grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, all the way back to the Great Depression. Right. And that's just from like a familial lineage of human descent. Right. And then also learning in a past life, I was a starved prisoner. It starts to add up when you're like, wow, no wonder I was making up for lost time, but you have no idea why. So for me, it was really just a motivator of like, I want to figure out how to be healthy. First of all, that was like the first goal. And then from there, that's when the layers started to get deeper. And then it was like, wow, I've changed the way that I've eaten, but I still want to, sabotage with food. This is now emotional, mental. Like I don't like my body. I don't know what self-love is. I don't know how to feel my emotions. I feel sensitive. I didn't yet know about the intuitive soul piece, but I was like, I feel sensitive. And, if I'm around big crowds, I come home and I'm overwhelmed and I just want to eat. And so when I started to understand, how to cope with my emotions and how to, identify my emotional eating triggers and that filling the void of food wasn't going to work and that self-love was going to, that's really when then I evolved into more of that emotional part of the journey. And as I was doing so and learning how to love myself and using things like meditation and EFT tapping and journaling and connecting with nature more, I started to feel more. That innate sense started to kick in. And the more that did, it would scare me sometimes, and then I would shut it down and I would eat again. It's like I would put my fire out because I'm like, oh my God, am I really this powerful person with these gifts? And like, I don't know how to handle it or how to use it. So it just was uncomfortable in the beginning, as I think it is for probably a lot of people who are, discovering it. And so I think once I got to that point though, where I recognized like those lineages and the past life thing and, this now physical, mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual aspect, I really realized, wow, even though I came from this chain, I don't need to be the one to continue to repeat it and then keep passing it on. Like I always felt different from a young age, and I just always knew I was here to really contribute something. I just didn't know what it was until I went through that experience. And now I'm just like, I know exactly why I'm here, having this human experience. And like, I'm here to heal women or help them heal of like their old programming and conditioning, and like reach optimal health physically, mentally, emotionally. And then they find the energetic, spiritual, parts of that if they're open, and like, heck yes, So I think it was all that accumulation that was just like, I know I'm meant to be different. I have so much love and compassion for my mom. However, watching her be so hard on herself and have that food addiction and just completely absorb her reality around her, like I've talked about in my podcast, like she essentially would take on, and still to this day takes on, the identity of others, whoever she sees the most. So, and I don't know if that's part of the multiple sclerosis, and it makes her subconscious work differently. I'm not sure. That would be some research to look into. But, when her mom broke her hip, she started to slow down walking because she had a fear of breaking her hip. Okay. And then all of a sudden, when she had to move into her first nursing home, she could still walk, but everyone else was pushing themselves around their wheelchairs. So she started to sit on her walker and push herself around. And then she just decided to quit walking one day. So for her, mindset has played a huge role in her journey of, where she's gone. I don't want to label it good or bad, right, but it's just so interesting to lovingly observe her and go, wow, you have manifested so many things through focusing on that, and how powerful that it can be in a positive or negative way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to answer your question, which I hope that did.
That did.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me, because I honestly was having, an emotional reaction to hearing that story, because it hits home even when I look at my family and my lineage and the things that have passed down through the generations. And for me, that's been suicide and depression. And then alcoholism is a big one too, but that broke in my dad. My dad saw that, and I think even a little bit in his father, saw that too, that dependency, or need to escape.
Yeah.
And so that I can see that in that lineage. So that was just bringing up so much for me, just even hearing your story of realizing like our thoughts really do matter, and they really do affect us physically. And just even all the science out there of, you think something and it changes you molecularly, down to the cellular level. And it's just crazy. And then even what you say, even more so, just you think it and then you speak it, and then it has that energy going out of you, which then comes back to you, eventually.
And we don't realize the significant impact it has because we're not taught, right? We're just taught that like life is the way that it is, and you're either lucky or you're not. And here's the kind of card deck you've been dealt with, when it's got nothing to do with that. And so I think the more and that's what I'm so grateful for about my journey. I was not awake before. I was not aware of any of this. I was just one of those people that thought all those same things, like, okay, well, I guess we'll just see what happens with life. And once I went through the deep food addiction, it helped me discover my soul and my intuition and become in tune with my physical, mental, emotional health, and like my energetic state and like my vibration. And that food addiction significantly lowers my vibration and negative self-talk. Or if I'm really bloated, like how can I, not that it's about perfection, but how can I show up and be who I want to be? If I'm unwell, I'm fighting with my body, I'm fighting with cravings, I'm feeling guilt, like it just brings you more. And you talk about mirrors, like when I was struggling with my food addiction, I attracted a lot of guys who also didn't feel good enough, weren't feeling ready to commit because they had their own insecurities, and they had drinking problems, right? And also, superficial men who, once I gained weight, had wanted to have nothing to do with me, only when I was thin. But that's because I was superficial. So we're such mirrors, right? And we don't realize that either. So it's like, if you keep attracting the same situation over and over again, and you're like, why me? It's like, okay, well, go inside of yourself. What are you thinking? How are you behaving with yourself? Because you're going to put that out there and get it back in someone else.
Mm-hmm. And it's so important because just even on a level of self-love and your self-talk is so huge. If you don't love yourself, how can you expect someone to love and value you if you don't love and value yourself?
It's so true. And this is the prime example because this is so fitting. So the guy that I dated 9 years ago, whom I met and, just had a beautiful connection. I just like fell in love with him so fast. He's just such a beautiful soul. And we started dating. And then a couple weeks in, he calls me, he's crying. He's like, I love you. I feel like you're part of my family. But he's like, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel ready. And he broke up with me over the phone. And I was like shocked and heartbroken because I actually thought he was like my person and the one. And, I went over to his house after and we talked about it and we just cried. And then he's like, I just can't do this. But what's so funny upon looking back is I wasn't ready either. I was deep in sabotage. He was deep in his stuff. But what the irony is I let him go and we both did our work. And now we've been in the most beautiful, loving relationship on like a soulful, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional level for the past 4.5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And like, I always had this feeling, I'm like, but I just want to share that though, because I shifted. I did the work. I learned how to love and respect myself. And then boom, he shows up, this loving, open, vulnerable, respectful man. Not that he wasn't before, but he was very closed off. And when we started dating again, he started to open up to me and share with me all the darkness he went through. And I was like, wow, we both were going through that and we needed to be distanced to take care of it so we could come back together. And we found out we're like soulmates and all that cool stuff. But I just wanted to share that because it's a very powerful example of what can happen when you do your deeper work. You will attract that ideal person for you or that ideal career or business or abundance or friends that, you just like. It's like when we get on the call and you're like, I feel like I've known you forever. I feel like I could just sit and talk to you for hours because you have that deep connection. You have that love and respect. And of course you're going to attract people that have the same,
You can't help it. It's part of nature.
Yeah, exactly. And really beautiful things can happen. Fairy tales can happen if you believe in it. And it's just a matter though of really believing in yourself.
Yeah. Self-worth.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that. And that thought life and understanding and catching yourself when something triggers, a negative self-thought or, gosh, I'm just not worthy of that promotion at work or I'm not worthy to have a guy or a girl love me and value me and hold me like they're holding each other. And, we can see things or, experience things or people can say things to us that trigger that. And I think those moments are just opportunities to check ourselves and how we're thinking about ourselves. And it's crazy to me about your story because you, in a way, just from what I understood from what you've shared, you really took life and took your mom, your family, all of that. And for a while, your struggle was your identity. And you shifted that. And I think that's so cool that you not only shifted it as you took it out of being something that it brought you down and it was something of like, I'm unworthy of being better, being a better person for myself. Like, I think that trash can kitchen floor moment, that was the moment where you realized the low, but you realized how much more valuable and worthy you were of not staying there.
Yeah.
I'd like to also discuss that moment. Such an amazing moment. Like, these moments, we don't hear just from everybody. Not everybody shares their kitchen floor, digging through the trash can moments.
Yeah.
So the fact that you shared that is just, I feel like that ripples through whoever reads that. It has to do something in them because it's so real and so raw. And so I just wanted to first thank you for sharing that, because I've dealt with food addiction. I've dealt with body issues, body shaming more or less. And that started really early on because of just hormonal imbalances when I became a woman. And from that point on, I really struggled with weight, and really it's been a struggle the rest of my life. So I think that kitchen floor moment is such a huge moment for women, for men, for anyone who has ever struggled with any kind of addiction. And so thank you so much for sharing that, because that was really inspirational to hear and read and in a way be a part of and connect with.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that. And it's my pleasure, because from what I've learned through my journey is the more willing we are to become open, get vulnerable, and share, the more we let others know they're not alone, to not feel the shame or the embarrassment, and to hopefully plant some seeds of inspiration of, if I can do this, anybody can do it. It's not a matter of I'm lucky or I have a certain something that you don't. We all have the same things within us. It's just that, are you willing to do the deeper work to find that, to build your worth, to build the self-love, to strengthen your intuition and have that deeper connection with your soul? Like, it's a layered journey. And the patience and also the curiosity of like, what is it gonna feel like when I love myself? I can't wait to know what that feels like. It's a feeling I've never had in my life. Like, that was really part of the driver of just like, I can't wait to know what this feels like. But again, it's just like you have this deep inner knowing. You just know, I'm going to get there and nothing's going to get in my way. I'm going to have my ups and downs, because it totally happened a lot. However, when you have that deep inner knowing, you just have to trust it and follow it, even if you don't know exactly where it's going to lead.
And did you visualize like what you would look like in a healthy body or a healthy mental state? Like, what was it that helped you to rise up, from that moment of such a low? What exactly was it for you? Was it, maybe it was that fear, but was it hope? Was it, what exactly was it that you realized?
So it definitely was that I was suffering immensely. So fear was keeping me back from changing, because there's fear of the unknown. Who am I going to be without food? Like, food's my best friend. And if I don't have that, what do I have? Thinking about being a whole different person, like, that was really scary and uncomfortable to think about. So for me, it was kind of like fear. I'm scared, so I'll just deal with it for a bit longer, and nothing would change. I'd keep eating and punishing my body. And finally, the night that I ate out of the garbage and I was just so full and so uncomfortable, I was just really like, and I was 21 at the time, I was just kind of thinking to myself, am I going to hit 30? Am I going to make it to 30 if I keep hurting myself this way and like binging this much and being so destructive toward my body? And in that moment, the suffering became bigger than the fear to want to change and step into the unknown. And that was a really valuable moment, because it was uncomfortable and I'm like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this or how I'm going to get there. However, I cannot keep doing this. This is no longer, like, I just can't. So that's, for me, was really a powerful moment. Visualization and things like that didn't come from me right away. That was more, that was kind of like phase 2 of the journey. I would say phase 2, 3, and not even about my body, but just starting to meditate and things like that. For me, what came first was understanding that the foods I was addicted to, the refined sugar, the gluten, the dairy, and foods with all those things in them, fast food too, that I needed to start changing the way that I ate. Not via restriction, but by trying to go gluten-free or reducing my refined sugar intake. I did have to cut wheat, sugar, and dairy out to overcome the food addiction, because I just kept falling back in with them. So that was an important part for me. However, I learned all these alternatives, and it was not through restriction, and I started to become more creative in the kitchen and like create my own recipes. And so a lot of good came out of that. And still to this day, we're gluten, dairy, and refined sugar free, and we just feel really good eating that way. Yeah, we have our dairy or a bit of sugar here or there, but why do you need to if you have all these great alternatives and you're not going to feel like crap afterward, right? So that was kind of the first phase. And then when I still wanted to binge on like healthy foods, that's when I knew, okay, it's time to go more emotional. I need to understand why I can't just sit with my emotions and feel overwhelmed or feel worry or feel sadness, because I just was like, oh my God, I don't want to feel this. Numb it with food, watch a movie, right? So that's when, I started to meditate, and I felt like I started to build more of a connection with myself, learn how to start to listen to my body, become more in tune. And I think for me, the visualization, or from a more of a manifestation standpoint, really started to come after all of that, after I stopped binging and really started to tune into the spiritual, energetic aspect of the journey, which was like, wow, my thoughts create my future. My cells listen to my thoughts. You manifest what you think about and what you talk about and who you are. And, it's not that some people are rich because they're lucky. It's because they have a mindset that is very in alignment with manifesting abundance or whatever that is for them that's working. And so that's when people like Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, Louise L. Hay, Dr. Bruce Lipton, some really people in their forefront that are like leading experts on this stuff, like just absorbing that information first on my own. And like my boyfriend and I are so hungry for it. He loves it too. And we see it all the time manifesting. We manifest together. And it's so cool to like see the power available. And so now what I do with visualization is really to help manifest what I want, or to just check in with my body and see how I'm feeling, if I need to do anything for myself. But it's so fascinating because the more you do this work, the deeper connection you build with yourself on all levels, the better you feel. Yeah, I'd have to tweak my hormone stuff here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty good. But the more connected you become and the more symptom-free you become happier, healthier, you do become wealthier. And then you manifest more quickly because you're more attuned, you're in a higher vibration, you're a higher frequency. And that's something I've definitely noticed. And actually over the last 8 weeks, even faster. And I think it's because I've been meditating more and like doing even deeper spiritual work. So it's not that it's certain people, everyone, and a couple of my colleagues and mentors say this too. We all have it. It's just that certain people are accessing it sooner than others, you know?
Because it's so layered. We're simple yet complicated. So, and it really has to be a belief. It has to be a core of who you are. It can't just be surface. It does have to hit all parts of you, because it does have to be a core belief.
Hey, it's me. I just wanted to let you guys know that I am a certified life coach, and I have been coaching and mentoring people for over a decade now. I specialize with issues of the soul, no surprise there, and can help you realign with your values and purpose, break free from emotional blockages and negative thought patterns, and you will feel motivated and encouraged to take the necessary steps to living a fulfilling life. My clients are people just like you who want to have connected and positive relationships with their friends, family, and significant others, break free from any addictions and bad habits, heal emotional issues and trauma, and experience spiritual breakthrough and energetic healing. Because as we go through life, we encounter challenges and hardships, and sometimes we need someone to help us keep going or to make adjustments that enable us to overcome and grow, and most of all, enjoy our life. My sessions are designed so that you are completely free to address whatever you feel is most important. If you are interested in meeting with me one-on-one, then go to whitneyapke.com/coaching and sign up. Your first session is on me.
Body image and thought life, because I think this has been one thing that I know I've struggled with, is how you see yourself, regardless of how your weight goes up and down, or for guys, maybe how much muscle they have or how tall they are. We have an ideal out there, a standard of beauty, and what we need to attain in our life. And if we don't fit that mold, then and so I think, do you have any tips as far as how to adjust your thoughts for your body image and how we see ourselves? Because I think that also goes into how we feel about ourselves, but it's also how we see and think of ourselves.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. And it's so funny that you bring this up, because what I've really become very conscious and aware of, especially lately, is how conditioned women have been to hate their bodies. We really have been. And it's interesting. a woman, a good friend of mine, she is a beautiful intuitive, and we had this conversation, and we were talking about how one of the ways that we give our power away is by being critical of our bodies and comparing our bodies to others, and then going on the fad diets and hurting ourselves with food and that kind of stuff, and we're completely out of our power. So via social media, photoshopping, magazines, celebrities of all different kinds. And I mean, I know a lot of them struggle with body image and stuff too, so my heart goes out to them. However, media has been designed in a way to make us compare, to make us not feel good enough, to make us wish or assume, in fact, if I want to be successful and I want to have love and money, I need to look like that. Mm-hmm. And that couldn't be further from the truth. But when you're out of your power, you can't shine your light as big. Okay? And let's face it, there's some people who don't want people to shine their light. So my advice is take some time to understand this and what for you makes you feel out of your power with any kind of what I've just talked about, whether it's like influencers on Instagram or certain, videos that you're seeing or whatever that is, and do a bit of a detox, do a media detox, unfollow people, get rid of stuff, like, and look to more positive programming, which is more like self-care, self-help, mindset, that kind of stuff, because it's really going to help you shift and realize, okay, I don't need to look a certain way. I follow, people that inspire you and make you go, heck yes, like I'm going to figure out how to love my body now. I don't have to be a certain size. So we've been made to fit into a mold because it's a great way for us to feel disempowered. And then the other aspect of it is for us to build our self-worth, and part of that is through taking time, building a healthy relationship with food, catching the negative self-talk and shifting it. And that's the subconscious programming that is going to take time to change. However, it's fully possible. And in the beginning, while it may feel foreign, like if you say something like, I am beautiful, you go, no, I'm not. And the ego takes over and all the criticism, and I'm a fraud. This doesn't feel real, so I'm not going to do it anymore. You have to remember, your subconscious programming has been there for however many years. It's going to take more than saying I'm beautiful a few times for you to really feel it and for it to resonate and for that to be your new programming. So that's where taking your time on your journey to really undo the old programming and, pull it out by the root and then fill it in with this new programming is so important. But we've also been conditioned everything now fast. And that's another problem, because it doesn't do us justice when we want to do the deeper work. And then we're like, how come like in a week I don't know how to love myself yet, or I don't feel beautiful? The programming takes time to change. But the beautiful thing is, as it does, you feel more connected to yourself. You have more gratitude. When you say I am beautiful, you feel it. Like even as I say it right now, I feel it in my heart. It's so resonant. And I'm not just saying I'm beautiful externally. Like I feel my beautiful soul. I'm so grateful for my body and everything she does for me. And it's a completely different experience when I say that. I feel it versus before when I'm like, no, I'm not, right? I know it. You find your inner knowing as you go on this process via the connection. So I think that that's a very powerful way to start shifting it, is some of those things and to keep at it, because it really is about consistency and repetition that are going to help you believe it. And then your subconscious go, oh, yes, okay, this is the new identity. Okay, we're taking this on. And then you're like, wow, this feels legitimate. This feels like it's who I am now. And that is one of the most beautiful gifts I think we can give ourselves, is to work through that old mindset stuff and shift to this new, positive paradigm. You're always going to have your moments. We all have an ego. However, when you learn how to be in your power and those first signs of what it feels like to give your power away to your ego pertaining to your body, you can go, oh, not going there, taking my power back. And, you can have gratitude for your body, and then you can move on.
Yeah. Bad or negative or lack of self-worth, self-value, self-love really is like an insecurity, which is really feeling unsafe. You feel unsafe socially, of who you are and how you relate to others. You feel unsafe in your body and whether your body can sustain you and keep you going. And so when we think of the subconscious, I really think of like the little girl that I was, you know, when I realized that I'm different, or I may not be the prettiest girl, and I saw the prettiest girl getting all the attention. And so then I felt like, gosh, I have to change this and this and this about myself so that I get that attention too. And that can start so young. Like for you at 5 years old at the bus stop, you get bullied and you get told for the first time that you're not beautiful, you know, or you're fat and ugly, or, you know, and like for at 5 years old, for you to all of a sudden realize that this undeveloped, in the middle of growing body is not okay. There's something wrong, right? And what an assault, you know, to go through at such a young age. And so that little girl has felt so unsafe through the years. And so, of course, like that's going to manifest in whatever issues or, you know, ways to feel safe. And you talk about that all the time, of self-protective layer. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. When I realized that, I don't know if I have a moment like you had where it's super, super clear. I just know there's been a lot of affirmations of, you know, what is wrong with me, you know. But I think that shadow work, or going down deep and discovering that, whatever that is, it's a truth within us that is affirmed in some way that makes us feel unsafe. And so then emotionally, how does that translate? And then how does that affect us, you know, of our thought life? And when did you realize that 5-year-old moment was like either a really clear moment of becoming a reality for you that shifted? Did you always know that was a moment in your life, a very clear moment where all of a sudden you were told something different than, you know, what was true?
Yeah. Honestly, it was a moment that I couldn't forget about. However, I didn't know how much it impacted and defined me until I was doing this work on myself and realizing, like, wow, I have this inner child who's been very hurt and she's very upset and she doesn't feel safe with me right now. She doesn't trust me. I put her through a lot, you know, with the food addiction and body image shaming and restriction and all that kind of stuff. And so I would say it was probably around 23, 24 when I started to get more into the emotional, you know, spiritual kind of work, that I realized that part of me had been neglected for so long. We're not taught how to connect with our inner child. Like, people think that's stupid, right? And it's like, no, this is a huge part. If your inner child feels threatened and hurt and unsafe, that could, you know, translate into your body hanging on to protection or weight because your body doesn't feel safe because there's this inner part of you that's had traumatic experience and it hasn't been addressed, right? So, or it could be hormone imbalances or, you know, whatever it is for that individual. So once I realized that my inner child was really upset, that's when I really started to connect with her more and starting to affirm and reassure her, like, you're not alone. I'm here for you. I'm so sorry for everything that I've done to you. And I'm so sorry for what those little boys did to you. Like, right. And going through that experience of apology and forgiveness and like letting her know I was there and letting her know I wasn't going to abandon her again. That was really important.
That is huge.
Yeah, it really is. And you build this new bond with that part of you that's always going to be there. And I think it's just so powerful because I remember, and even if I just like think about it right now and see it off in my, you know, vision, it's like I see me sitting with her on this park bench and I had like a little mushroom cut and like, you know, my big brown eyes just like smiling, looking at me, and I've got my arm around her, and it's such a beautiful bond, right? And she knows I've got her back, but that took time. That didn't just happen from having one conversation with her and being like, we're good. It took time. But as you nurture that part of you and you provide her with comfort, she comes around and she forgives and lets go. And then you can again have that deeper connection.
Right. Because your inner child is really like the core of innocence within you, the purest, most selfless, light, love, joy, peace, but that innocence, that purity. And so that's something worth protecting, and that's worth something, taking the time to develop, and especially as we experience life, my mom always was big on, you know, what you watch and what you listen to and who you hang around. And she really helped us protect ourselves from, you know, anyone taking advantage of us or anything like that. And I just really appreciate that. But I realized, gosh, my mom was such a good mother to me growing up. I'm not a good mother in that sense to my inner child, to myself. I don't protect myself like my mom protected me, you know? And I think if we just think of it like that, in a sense of, gosh, the true essence of who we are, our inner purity, innocence, vulnerability, all of that needs to be protected, and it's worthy of being protected and listened to. And especially right now, I know everyone in quarantine is getting really triggered, especially emotionally, not just like on a, you know, thought level, but we're all really struggling with emotions of fear. We feel like we don't have enough, even though maybe our bank account is full or we're still getting a paycheck. And we feel that lack. So we go and we get as much toilet paper as they'll let us walk out with. And, and you know, all of that. So I think on just like an emotional level, I wanted to ask you, through all of the clients that you have, you know, worked with, all the women you've worked with, same as we were talking about thought life, you know, have you seen like their emotional state and what they continually feel about themselves? Have you seen that actually manifest itself physically, and how does it manifest if it does?
Totally. 100% it does. And it's so true. And I personally have experienced this so much. And whether or not there's like massive science to back it up, it's legit. Like when you experience it yourself and you see, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of other women go through it too, it's fascinating. And it's like, how come we're not taught this? Because it'd be huge. So essentially some things that I observe, and I observe this with myself in the past, and then with a lot of my clients, is for a lot of them, their struggle is their stomach area, right? Because it's like, oh, you need a flat stomach. If you have a flat stomach, then you're good enough in all that stuff. Yeah. Anyways, so then we direct a lot of hate and anger and frustration and shame toward our digestive region. So then you see a lot of bloating, inflammation, pain, gallbladder that can contribute to the gallbladder, you know, stones and things like that. Yeah. So, and that's your solar plexus in it, and then it can shut down that part of you. So I see that a lot. I swear I went through all these first and then, like, you know, see them in my clients. Fear and deep, intense fear and sadness can sit in the kidneys. And again, when we're in a lower vibration, bacteria thrives. So I would get UTIs like crazy if I felt very intense, deep fear or sadness. Also, you know, and then I'd be like, well, what? I didn't eat anything or drink anything. Why? And I started to learn through my deeper work that, wow, like this is so emotional and spiritual, because I also had a past life experience where I was abandoned by my soulmate, and I held that in my urethra for like a long time. And once we, you know, it got triggered by going to visit his family the first time, and I'm like, why do I have this weird pain all of a sudden? It won't go away. Discovered a past life experience of that we were together and we lived there, and then he passed away and I never got over it, and I was carrying all that sadness there. And then I went for a session with my intuitive, and she found all this out and we cleared it, and it like pretty much went away. Wow. So for those who are open, it's not just about this lifetime from that aspect of the past life thing. I fully believe in that, because I was just like, I can't figure out what the heck is going on. Another one that I see people struggle with is the throat chakra and the thyroid. So the thyroid is a big part of our metabolism. It's our thermometer, our temperature. There's so many different things that the thyroid does for us. And so when women are choking back their words, when they feel like they can't speak up and say what they need to say, when they're like, oh, I don't want to cause any conflict, I don't want to upset somebody, I don't want to say no. So they choke it back, and it suppresses the thyroid. And then you see all these women with underactive thyroid. It's an epidemic because we've been taught to not speak our truth and not, speak up for ourselves. And of course, at some point you're going to get a block, and that could impact, you know what I mean? So, So those are just a few of the things that I've definitely seen. I know I'm using myself as more of an example, but I swear to you, I've like been through so many of those energetic, physical experiences. And then seeing them in the clients, especially like I've said, the digestive one, the throat, you know, it just gives you more proof and confirmation of how connected everything is. And it's not that we have to fear that or be paranoid and go like, oh my God, I better not think any negative thoughts because I don't want to get really sick. It's not about that. It is, part of it is starting to become aware of your thoughts and starting to do that work so that you can shift your mindset. You're not going to just manifest something if you think about it once or twice. It's when we get emotionally involved with it and we continue to focus on it, what we don't want, we're far more likely because what you resist persists. Also, if you've been, you know, brought up that they've gone through maybe grief, or they have deep resentment for themselves or someone else, or there's something or some things they haven't worked through and they're storing all that in the body. I find a lot of women actually put on protection because they have shoved so much down and suppressed so much within them that the body's like, this is so much stress to handle all this stuck emotion. So like, we gotta put on weight because it's so overwhelming to have all this stored in the body. And so that's another one. And then for some people with those stuck emotions in the body, it could be pain, cancer, right? We see a lot of, you know, grief, not feeling good enough. Like that's very associated to those kinds of things. Broken hearts and sadness in the heart can contribute to the heart issues, right? Like you see you hear of instances where a couple that's been together for a very long time and one passes away and then the other dies of a heart issue. All of a sudden it's a broken heart. That's what I think. Like they're, you know, I think that that's very resonant emotionally. And, you know, from what I've learned, there's 5 planes of manifestation. So it's spiritual. You don't address it on the spiritual level, then it hits you on the energetic level. If you don't address it there, and a lot of people don't because they're just not aware, it's innocent, then that's when it then hits emotional and mental. And if you don't address it on a mental, emotional level, the final phase of manifestation is through the physical symptoms in the body. So we've already gone through those other planes. So that's why when we have physical symptoms and we're only taking actions in a physical way, like supplements or nutrition, and we don't work on the mindset, we don't understand our emotions, we don't understand what we focus on, we attract. And if you're not attracting what you want, right, like that makes you feel poorly about yourself. If you don't understand these other levels, it's okay. However, you really are missing out on your full, like, opportunity to heal and like really get where you want to go, because they're such valuable pieces of the puzzle. And the more that I've opened up to my spiritual, energetic part of my journey, I realized like this is significant. This is so important.
Yeah, your past life, basically that energy, right? That has come with you through the generations, through your lifetimes, you know, generations of you, and then generations of the families, and then all of that really does impact us in both a positive and negative way. It's not all negative. I feel like a lot of times you hear more of people going to intuitives or psychics, or, you know, anyone that can tap into the spiritual world or energetic world, and it's because they have an issue. But really, there's so much positive that we also carry, and it's cool to like hear about, and all the things that come up with you know, knowing what's happened in a past life is just so cool. I've never done that. I really want to do that,
honestly. And it wasn't even like I didn't even go and specifically see her for past life stuff. Like it just came up in the session, which was so interesting. Like it was the first time I'd ever seen her, and we sat down and it came up right away, and like it made her cry. She's like, I can see this, and like so, and I just had chills the whole time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels so real. So I think if we can open up to those experiences and allowing ourselves to have those healing experiences, we really do enhance and or expand our level of, you know, feeling better, being more at ease, understanding a bit more about who we are to a soul level. I know for some people that's just not their thing, and that's totally okay, and they're going to focus on and believe in whatever they are called to. So I think we have to really honor that. However, if I wouldn't have gone for that session, just as an example, like who knows how long I'd have that severe discomfort for, right? but it's that going to the East Coast triggered it, because it's like, oh, it's time for you to finish dealing with this. And the physical symptom kept pushing me to go, I need to figure out what's going on, right?
It was stuck energy.
Yeah, it was definitely stuck energy, but your human, like, logical self just wants to be like, okay, I just need to get some tests done, and like, you know, maybe it's like stuck anger, and like I'm doing some energy work and stuff and it's not going away, and I'm like, what am I missing, right? But because we have a veil, and when you volunteer to come to this planet, you forget all the other stuff, or most of it. Like, how would you ever know that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're meant to be in tune with the spirit world and energy, and how that relates. We are three parts. We can't just, you know, and if you do just believe that you're, you know, a soul and a body, and that's the paradigm that you want to live in, and that's the world you're okay and comfortable with, that's fine. But there is a whole nother layer of who we are and our essence as human beings. We are spirit, soul, and body. And so a lot of the spirit world that is also not easily seen or relatable, or it's not physical, we can't grab it, you know, but we can sense it. There's like like you said, a knowing. You can feel it, but it's not an emotion, but it can cause emotions. And it's not a thought, but it can cause thoughts. It's this essence, you know. I don't know any other way to describe it.
It is. I get it.
Yeah, you get it. And so I think that living without that, and living without the knowledge of that, and how that relates to us on a physical level, our energy and our spirit, and stuck energy, I think that was something that was a little new to me in this past year. I didn't realize that energy could get stuck. I knew that energy maybe would be blocked off, in the sense of like, I'm either blocking it off because I am in a negative thought pattern that I'm not acknowledging, but I'm feeding it, you know. I'm ignoring the fact that I know this isn't true about myself, but I really just feel crappy, and so I'm gonna keep thinking about this because situations and life and people are affirming this, and so I'm just gonna feel real crappy about myself, or about somewhere I am in my life. And I didn't realize that all of that momentum of thoughts and feelings and then things happening in my life is actually due to energy and spirit, and me attracting that because I'm putting that out there. Yeah. But then even within myself, I'm having this cycle happen, and then things are getting stuck because I'm holding on to them. And I just didn't realize like that communication happens, and that we can have stagnant energy or broken, even something within us that is broken, that energy can't flow through that because we haven't healed yet. Yeah. And for you had that, where you were having a physical issue that is super inconvenient and painful. Yes. Uncomfortable and painful. Yeah. Words can't describe. And you didn't have an answer for it. There was no reason. And it was purely stuck energy.
Yeah, and it was really intensive because it was about 2 years that I had it pretty much every day, and it was pretty bad most days. And so there was a part of me that it was very hard, but it taught me also how to connect with my body, and instead of get reactionary about the symptom and freak out about it and fear that it was going to get worse, the more I could acknowledge it and then sit with it and go and actually like talk to my body and go, you're safe, I'm here, like, you know, if you have any messages for me as far as why this is happening, I'm open to hearing them, you know, and coming with more compassion, even though it was so painful. It really helped whatever symptoms were there to not get worse. And then I started figuring out how to like relieve some of it, you know, via visualization and tapping and different techniques to calm the nervous system down. However, the fact that it wasn't going away, you know, but that part of me led me to have this session and like talk about a breakthrough moment, right? Like it's just incredible to think that, you know, going somewhere could trigger something like that, but it does. And so I think that, you know, if our body's talking to us and we're trying certain things like from a physical space or even like stress management and it's not working, be willing and open to explore like energy work or body talk or whatever it is, because you never know if that's the thing that you need, and that's what's going to help you get to that next level of optimal health and freedom, and even a deeper connection with yourself. And as you again go on that kind of journey, you become more connected, you become more in tune, and then you start to, the more in tune you become, it's just easier for you to connect to source. And like now when I just become overwhelmed with joy and I start to cry tears of joy, I know there's a beautiful presence around me. There is so much love around me. And that's my sign that my team is here, and my guides and all that stuff. Because I'm like, how do I know they're here? Like, I can't see them. But then that started to happen. And I'm like, oh, that's my sign right now. And it may change. However, it took just getting, I think, to a certain level of awareness for that.
I think it's just incredible. Is it possible, do you think, for our body to change how we think, feel, and relate on a spiritual level? Do you think it can flow in that sense of maybe something, and that maybe that you start eating right, or exercise? Do you think that can change us in that sense?
Yeah, for sure. Because once you resensitize your internal environment, your body, your cravings go from refined cravings to like, wow, I need more. Like sometimes I just crave romaine lettuce, and I think it's because there's lots of chromium or the green or whatever. Or you start, you need an apple because it's rich in vitamin C or more protein. So when the more attuned you are, the more accurate and aligned your cravings are. It's funny because last year, when 2019 started, I was like, I really want to get a treadmill. Like, I just want to walk at home. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, I'm like, I really think I want to start drinking celery juice. And then it's funny because I had these kind of just hunches and, this inner, like, oh, you should do these things. And then a couple months later, because I was still dealing with some inflammation, I went and had a thermograph done, and it measures 100 different points on your body and your body temperature 2 times. So you stand there first and they do it with your clothes on, and then you go in your underwear and they do it again after 10 minutes to see the change in body temperature and how your body responds. And I discovered my lymphatic system was really slow, and I'm like, wow, it's kind of ironic that I wanted to walk more and taking this celery juice before I even knew that this was going on. And then like interestingly enough, then learned about dry skin brushing and hot and cold showers and like infrared sauna and all this kind of stuff. And now like I meditate in our infrared sauna, and it's like one of the most magical experiences, right? It's like our little healing machine. But I was having some of those hunches without even knowing that that's why I think my body was wanting me to do those things. And then I got that information. I was like, wow, I was already like on track to deal with this. So I do think yes. And same with movement. Like I walk because it feels good, or we'll go for a bike ride. And I got a little mini trampoline to rebound for my lymphatic system. However, the rebounding has become one of my favorite things to do because I just put on good music and I bounce away, but it's not for calorie burn or any of that. It's like, I just love doing it and it makes me feel so good. And I think when we can be guided in that way and explore movement that we love, that's mindful for our bodies and in alignment versus like, I need to go to the gym and like pump iron because that's what everyone else is doing. And if that's your thing and you thrive off of that, great. However, we need to get out of this little box, which is the gym, and just like a couple things and go like, if dancing is your jam, if roller skating is your jam, like yoga, whatever it is, like do what you love and stop punishing yourself with exercise that you hate.
Because as kids, we didn't go outside for recess as a punishment, or because we needed to be different. We did it to play. Yeah. And I think we all still need to play. We need to have playtime.
Yes.
It needs to be fun.
We need to play. We need to, like, I don't care how old I get. I love stuffed animals. And like every time we go somewhere and I see a really cute one, I get it, or my boyfriend gets it for me, because it's just like, why? Like there's that innocent, playful part of you that dreamed big as a child, and we shut that off as we grow up, and we shouldn't. And so why not have those childlike aspects of you that are so resonant for you and part of who you are? That's so important. We need to play more and love more unconditionally.
I wanted to just ask you, what is maybe your biggest takeaway in the relationship between and the connection between our body and our soul? What is maybe like your biggest practice or practices or rituals that you've implemented in your life that you feel more connected with who you are as a person?
Healthy boundaries with work-life balance, awareness of my ego and what it feels like to be in my power versus giving it away to my ego, because when I'm in power, I really am in harmony. I clear energy every day. Always know that I am highly and so supported and loved in so many ways, including by myself. And, self-care is really important. So I love meditation. It's just been something that I've really been connecting with. Also then like having fun, being playful, like my boyfriend and I like laugh so much together, and we'll go and have adventures, or like you have a good coffee date with a friend, like it's all of that. And then I think my work also grounds me in a way, and obviously fulfills me because it's my soul's purpose. And so I think all of that accumulates together, and it really helps me feel connected on so many levels to myself and to so many other amazing things in this world and in this universe that, again, are within all of us. We just need and want to be willing to open up to it.
So good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and for being on episode 3.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so grateful for, you opening up your space for me.
Absolutely. It's such a privilege and an honor to have you. So thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to episode 3 of the Soulish Podcast. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Amber and better understand just how connected our bodies and souls are. Follow Amber on Instagram at Amber Romaniuk and go check out her podcast, the No Sugarcoating Podcast. It's seriously so good. Don't forget to follow Soulish on Instagram and Facebook at I Am Soulish to join the community and to continue the conversation. I hope you will join me again next week as we continue talking all about the ish of our souls. See you then.